What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another live stream on Ranger Central. And before I even say anything and start talking about anything, I just want to say before anyone thinks I'm coming back full time, I'm not. I am not coming back full time. I'm just here again uh, to talk about another game that was just a complete shit show. As you can see, though, my camera is moved over because of the fact that I have returning guests joining. Obviously, you guys know the first guest very well, as we did a lot of live streams together. He was on Big Apple Hockey the other day. Matt joining in. What's going on?
Same old shit. Another dreadful performance. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say.
And then we also have Carson joining in. The trio from last year when we ripped on this team nonstop. But how we doing, Carson?
I mean, a lot of it has changed. I mean, we see it's a completely different roster now, the completely new coach. I mean, it's so different. I mean, we are completely seeing such a change in this. It's not getting worse at all. And, Evan, I do want to, thank you for making your background blue. So, some of these blue teamers, as we like to say, can pay attention this time. So, to the blue teamers, hey, how's it going? This is what you wanted, right? This is exactly what you wanted.
Yeah,
This is
and
it.
we obviously talked at nauseum last year about how much of a shit show this is. I went live yesterday, talked about how much of a shit show it is. I'll get to some of your comments. Honestly, there's no structure to how this is going to go. The game was a tire fire. We're just kind of here to shoot the shit about the team. Mike Enware for life. Now that that was prime 2026 Rangers hockey, at least Gabe got a couple. Laba got one, and even Laffy did something besides the bad giveaways. And that's the thing that sucks is you have to preface besides the bad giveaways, besides doing this. That's what sucks about this. Like, yes, Lafreniere scored, and when there was no pressure on. Ottawa probably gave up at that point. Gabe Perreault was able to get 2 goals. Congratulations to him, I guess. We are terrible. Shame on me for thinking after 2024 we would be back. Understatement saying that this team is terrible. What's going on at Two Cats? This team is far from competitive. That's for damn sure. DP, what's going on? Robbie, the tank job is on. But all we could sit here and say is, you know, what I kind of talked about yesterday, where it's not a surprise that this shit's happening. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, we could, Matt, you had the post game quotes before we started. If you want to read those again, real
Oh, yeah,
quick,
okay.
just to talk about, I just saw JT Miller said something. I don't even know what he said, but
Yeah, I could pull them up quickly right here. Of course, we have some quotes from our fantastic first line, second line center, whatever you want to call him. Our favorite Swedish forward, as we would like to call him. Mika Zibanejad, just quickly, a few points. We just dug ourselves a hole. It's tough enough to win as it is in this league. You spot the other team 4 goals, you're not making it much easier. Went on to say, we have to turn the desperation we have to turn that into energy. We have to turn whatever we're feeling right now into some sort of energy. Vincent Trocheck was asked about the Rangers' 10-2 loss, and then I don't know, he didn't even say anything in this thing. And then Gabe Perreault was just, yeah, it's nice to get one, but at the end of the day, we lost, so it really doesn't matter. At least someone right there has the attitude. You know, the goals don't matter if we lose, so. But
Too bad he's going to be corrupted in
he'll probably
year
get
two.
poisoned pretty soon by this garbage culture and garbage, just whatever this team has that inflicts it on their players.
Mm, unreal. Unfreaking real. It's unreal. It's crazy that, we have to actually have debates now that maybe we're putting JT Miller in that Jacob Trouba category. It's crazy. It's nuts. It's actually nuts. How is that possible?
yeah. Thank you for the $2 here. Um, it's the real Capo Caco. No way. Watching my live stream. But thank you for the $2. But yeah, I mean, that's what I talked about even yesterday on my stream. It's like,
Hold on, I made a tribute video for Caco. Hold on. Oh wait, no one does.
But that's what I talked about yesterday. That's like, it's sad that we're sitting here having these conversations that JT Miller might actually be worse than Jacob Trouba as a captain. And yeah, he had a couple of assists tonight. Like, that does not mean anything at all. Because when you have your captain going up to the media and saying the same shit over and over again, and the actions are not backing it up, I don't give a fuck what you say at that point. And then you have Vincent Trocheck too, Mr. I wanted to be the captain and everything, going out there, setting the tone of the game, taking a penalty early, takes a penalty at the end of the second period. How many dumb penalties has he took over the past couple of games, all season, but especially over the past couple of games? It's just it's just pathetic to watch. It is just absolutely pathetic to watch. And last year I was saying it, JT Miller felt like a follower, not a leader, and we're seeing it right before our eyes that clearly that is the case.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes hand in hand with Nick here from Windy City Hockey, which if you guys don't follow him, make sure you do because he produces really good Blackhawks content. But I mean, the guy got kicked out of multiple locker rooms, obviously got traded here, got shipped out of Tampa, caused drama in the Vancouver locker room. Now, look, whether you agree with, whether you take the side of Pettersson or whether you take the side of JT Miller, if you're a true leader in a locker room or any sort of clubhouse, whenever there's any type of drama internally, you make sure that stays internal. You don't let that ever, squeak out to the media. And that all freaking just went into one big turmoil pile of garbage. And then naturally, of course, Vancouver wants to get rid of him. And Chris Drury says, hey, this guy caused drama in so many different locker rooms. You know what? I think this guy should be the captain and the leader of our locker room. Yes, because that was clearly going to fucking work out. And look what's happening now. Like, it's not, again, like all this stuff that's happened over the past a year and a half, like it wasn't that hard to predict. And again, like it's tiring at the end of the day, like doing these live streams because it's like, because we keep going over the same stuff like every single time, and like it gets to a point where it's like, I mean, like how many times can we talk about the same point of this was going to go bad, this was going to go, like, again, like this stuff was obvious. That's why I think we're all so frustrated, not only because the team's losing and the team's in a free fall right now, because listen, I get no one wants to lose, but there is ways to go about it. When there is total dysfunction and when every single bad thing could have easily been pointed out right before it happened, but this general manager and this fan base still wanted to go along even though there was glaring red flag issues, that's the most frustrating part.
And now you have, better late than never, now you have fire Drury chance. Because like we were talking about this off stream, it's basically just full on scoreboard watching. The score doesn't look good, so all of a sudden, let's fire the manager. But if you're actually paying attention, this is why I have no respect for some fans who just basically enable everything that a organization does, even though they have not won shit and their ways don't do anything. Their ways don't win anything. I mean, it's the whole point as to where, when you're scoreboard watching and you're like, oh, well, we're winning games. We're like, no, you were winning games in spite of those issues that weren't going to sustain whatsoever. And they just continue to do things ass backwards. They have not, I don't think I've seen a decision that I have agreed with that they have made for a long time. And not to mention, even if them trading Kreider or trading this guy, or getting rid of, it was too late. They're always late. They're late to the party. They don't realize it. And they won't blow the entire thing up. You can't do it. We all know why you can't do it. It's all locked in. They're stuck. It's done. There's no, well, we're going to get the number one pick, which for some organizations, maybe that is a good thing. Because you have, the worst place to be is in the middle, of course. But with that number one pick, are they going to develop anyone? No. What's the point? What's the point if you have Chris Drury? To be honest, what is the point if you have James Dolan still owning this team? They look past everything. That's all they do. They just look past everything. It's all about the cold, hard results, and that's it. That's all that matters. Not that the fact that this thing is being held together by duct tape, or by Scotch tape. Duct tape is actually strong somewhat. Scotch tape. It is a disaster. And it was a disaster waiting to happen that we were pointing out for 2 years, right after they were eliminated by Florida and got their ass handed to them. And even if them losing in 6 games, they played like they should have been swept.
Yep.
They were on what I saw exactly from that Rangers-Florida series 2 years ago. I saw one team that is barely hanging on and one team that is going to be a perennial cup contender fully healthy. And what do we know? That's how we look.
Yeah, and that's the part that's frustrating the most is that they didn't go all in at the deadline the year that they played Florida. And they couldn't acknowledge and look in the mirror. And, I don't want, because we do this all the time with the Mets streams where we compare them with the Rangers. But, sorry, Matt, what were you going to say?
We have some kind of bad news regarding Tucker. Jeff Passan went on Sportsnet, and he was saying the Jays are willing to go as deep as 10 years for Tucker, potentially.
Oh.
So if that's the case, then, yeah.
I don't know.
We'll see what ends up happening there.
Anyways.
Oh, that's tomorrow's problem. But nonetheless, I was going to, make the comparison to the Mets where they're making changes right now. It was evident after that conference finals run, you blew a lead in 2 different conference finals. You got embarrassed by New Jersey the year before. Changes had to be made one way or another to at least retool what you already have within. And they just refused to do it. They refused to do what they need to. They decided to keep running this back. And this is what you get. Sit back and enjoy the shit show. And now you get aging veterans and draft picks that have been nothing but garbage and have done nothing for this team at all. Simple as that.
They'll be press box ornaments. They'll die on the 4th line. They'll be middle 6 forwards at best. What is there to be what is there to be encouraged by? Nothing. There's nothing to be encouraged by. It's not like they have so much cap room or they're going to get the number 1 pick. History states that the best you're going to get out of that number 1 pick is a middle 6 forward. That's it. That's all you're going to get. And to be honest, they're not even guaranteed to get they're not even guaranteed to win that draft lottery, even if they have the best odds or whatever.
And speaking of this comment, the saddest part is too, or the ironic part, I should say, is that's all this team does. They try to microwave championships when that's not going to work, which is why when Peter Laviolette got fired, Matt, Carson, and we all came on the stream, and when they hired Mike Sullivan, even we said, that's awesome, but who gives a fuck with this group? Who gives a fuck? We've seen this movie before, different coaches, but I'm sure now we're, Mike Sullivan's the issue. I think fans have finally at least came to the realization that it's Drury. I do want to get to some more comments though. I didn't even want to, because I can't give you an actual list on this one. I just want to say it's ironic that Drury's manning the ship and he's in the worst captain conversations in Ranger history. I just thought I'd bring that comment up just for the sake of it. Thank you for the $5, Nick. Out of the 6 teams who haven't said 10 Neil, the Rangers are having the worst. Chicago was supposed to be bad. They are playing better hockey the last couple of years. at least with Chicago, they're actually rebuilding. And this is a point that Anthony
They have
brought
a
up.
direction.
Exactly.
They have
And this is the
direction.
point that Anthony brought up on Big Apple Hockey earlier that I wanted to bring up here. It's one thing if they were last place right now in the Eastern Conference and they, said before the season, all right, we're going to rebuild and we're going to go in a direction where we're getting some young talent. No one would care right now. It's the fact they're trying to win. They're trying to win. And this is what you get. This is what you get. And you have the Chris Drury show, who he's kept the same guys that have done a garbage job around him. And not only that, I mean, how many times have we heard about there's like 1 or 2 pro scouts in the organization?
He has one analytics guy, right? One.
Something like that, yeah. One analytics guy.
Yeah, that guy's probably just fucking snoozing. Like he's probably just on full chloroform. I mean, like he's just gone. Like I'm sure he doesn't even know his name.
And this is the reason we got mad when Igor got extended. It's because you're trying to do the same shit that you've done for your entire existence that has not worked for 100 years. You're trying it again. What makes you think it's going to work now? Thank you for I believe this is pounds, but thank you for the 10. If you guys could pinpoint the most significant moment which led to the Rangers' catastrophic downfall, what would it be? The inactive 2024 offseason, poor drafting, Trouba situation, Drury, and other. The problem is it's all those things combined. That's really the issue. I mean, if you really want to point to the downfall, I mean, you could sit here and go the easy route of saying Chris Drury being named the GM is because his first move is to get rid of Pavel Buchnevich for peanuts. And then, we see what happens from there. But Igor backpacks that team to the conference finals. And, the scoreboard watchers think Chris Drury is doing an amazing job. He could do no wrong. We finally got our GM. If I'm going to pinpoint any moment, I don't know. To me, I would still, I guess, say not getting Jake Gensel, because that was your opportunity to go all in and you didn't. You missed your best opportunity, arguably, with this 3-year window that you even had, that you were fortunate to have in the first place. But you could also say 2024, not being able to look in the mirror and say, you know what? Even though we went 6 games with Florida, we didn't look good in those 6 games. We got backpacked by our goalie. We're not as close to a cup as we are. If they were able to actually acknowledge that and make the changes accordingly, maybe they are contending right now. But they weren't able to acknowledge that. They thought just because it was a 6-game series against the team that won the Stanley Cup, that they're right there. It's the same problem the Islanders had. They could not reflect enough that, they were a couple pieces away when they lost to Tampa Bay. It's the same exact problem.
No, I think it was. I would pinpoint it to that Florida series again. I still think it is, because it basically just shows you exactly what they were made of against a team that was considered the most complete in all of hockey. I mean, that was considered, and they still are fully healthy. And to be honest, if they were fully healthy, they probably would be on a 3-peat right now and be able to do so. However, the thing is that it wasn't just, it wasn't just the scoreboard watching. It basically showed you exactly what your top guys were made of, which was not much. Not much at all. When the pressure is on, those guys had absolutely no idea what they were doing. They were completely out. Our top 6 compared to their top 6, awful. We were pinned in our own zone for 75% of that series. And like we said, the only reason that went to 6 games was because of Igor Shesterkin. That was it. That was it. And you may be asking, then why are you upset that they extended him? Because that's enabling that mindset that the goalie should do everything. And we don't live in that anymore.
And not only
a red-hot goalie can't take you all the way to the promised land.
And not
You
only
can't build from the net out. You can't. It's impossible.
that was going to be my point. And not only is it enabling that, but it's also giving a message to your team. It's okay that you're fucking up. And the other thing too is, we screamed it from the mountaintops also. You couldn't win with him making 5.6 million. You were never going to win with him making 11.5. And he's not Henrik Lundqvist. He's not Dominic Hasek. He's not any of those guys. And if you couldn't
He
win,
peaked 4 years ago, 3 years ago, he peaked.
And ever since then, and again, as much as we're saying he backpacked the team and he was good, but ever since then, the numbers have not been as good as they were in that 21-22 season. They just aren't.
And during that, he's had how many mental breaks? Mr. $11.5 million needs mental breaks because he's a soft baby. That's the guy you invested a no trade clause in for 8 guaranteed years. 11.5 million per. And to be honest, the Rangers, again, we've talked about this so many times at nauseum, like we can say it until we're purple in the face. The constant argument of, well, you're just going to let him go for nothing? Yeah. Because we know nobody else in the NHL who's looking to actually compete and an actual competent franchise would give him that deal. No one would give it to him. Good luck, Igor. Have fun. We all knew that if he went on the open market, he would have came back to us with his tail between his legs. We all knew that. The only guy who didn't is the guy in the front office.
Yep. And that's the part that's frustrating because again, not to compare sports, but look at how the Mets handled Pete Alonso last offseason. You come back at our terms.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between a front office that actually knows what they're doing versus this front office that displays incompetence. Because like I said at the time as well, and we all agreed on it about Igor being extended, it was Drury's way of putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound and keeping his job around longer. That's all it was, because instead of losing games like they are right now, 7-4, or, losing games 10-2, they lose games 3-1 with Igor and net. They lose games 3-2. It's like, if a couple of those games went our way and, if Adam Fox was healthy, what could be? That's not the case, though. And they weren't performing with those guys healthy. NY for Life saying this is embarrassing. The Rangers have not won a home game since before Thanksgiving. The last 5 games, the Rangers have been outscored 30-12, and you have no clue. Dolan going on WFAN making his quotes. And the funny part is they've been outscored wildly since he went on there and talked about how he has faith in Chris Drury and everything. And like I mentioned yesterday, this is the guy that you have faith in and you'd be patient with. This is the general manager. You are never going to be, you're not going to be a good franchise. You just are not. No. And then this too. I mean, the development staff. How are the same guys from the development staff still here years later? How? You went through a whole rebuild and all you have to show for it from your first round picks are you have Alexei Lafreniere, who's in the Nail Yakupov conversations for how bad he is. A third pair defenseman who's playing on the top pair, making your $7 million investment look like a fucking tire fire out there because all he's doing is pinching every 2 seconds, can't make a 10-foot pass, leaving Gavrikov on an island every single time. So barely a third pair defenseman in Braden Schneider, but hey, he's a good-looking guy, though, at least, right? That'll put butts in the seats. You have that, and then Brennan Othmann, who everyone knew at the time was a reach. And you know what the funny part is? You, Matt, Carson, me, everyone, all 200 people have the same amount of goals as Brent Othmann has, and he was drafted in 2021. All of us have the same amount of goals. Jake Gensel, who they didn't want to move Othmann and Kakko for, probably has more games played than Othmann and Kakko have. He probably has more points than games played from Kakko and Othmann within the span of that trade not going down. How pathetic. And then this is another good point. And, I thought it at the time, but I was just trying to, it's a lightning ride. You got to enjoy it, right? I was trying to just enjoy the playoff run, but this is true too. For a team that won the President's Trophy, they did not dominate Washington in that series. I know, obviously,
I don't
they
think we
swept
saw them dominate anyone in that President's Trophy season at all.
No,
No,
all those games against Carolina were close too. They were never blowing teams out during that playoff run. Never. Even in 21-22, at least you could point to, game 1 versus Tampa Bay. You could point to game 2 versus Pittsburgh and say that, those games actually looked good. And that 23-24 run, did they really dominate any of those games? I can't sit here and say they did. How many times have the Rangers been shut out this season? Honestly, I don't even know. I've not.
8 times.
8 times. There you go. 8 times. And you still have quotes from the locker room about how it's like, we got to build and we got to see what we have here. We got to, come back with some urgency the next day. Like, you're over halfway through the season to know you are who you are. You are who you are at this point.
Just wait till the deadline, though. Then we're
wait for Kiefer Sherwood to come in. We're a Kiefer Sherwood away. Trade that Carolina first-round pick to get Kiefer Sherwood. That will change things. And Braden Schneider is atrocious, and I don't want to hear anything about how, because I see this narrative whenever we talk about trading Braden Schneider. There's this portion of the fan base are just like talking heads around hockey that are like, oh, the Rangers fan base is always running a defenseman out of town when they shouldn't be. I challenge you to tell me a good moment from Braden Schneider outside of when he was first called up. When he was first called up, that's the last time I saw him play good hockey.
He kind of just exists, to be honest. Again, we have had so many defensemen come and go. I mean, Keandre Miller pissed me off so much. The whole thing with Trouba. You can go Libor Hayek. You can go so many of these guys. Schneider is one of those guys who there's nothing he does well at all. And it's so costly to this team, but it goes unnoticed because of the entire so-called identity that this team is used to. Everyone's just like, okay, well, Schneider's this type of player that's not really good at anything, but he's seen as physical, and the idea of him being physical, that's great. That's it. But and people see it with that mindset, and they're like, okay, well, proceed. First round pick, he'll figure it out, right? No. He's here to exist. That's it. And what's funny is watching this guy play where he gives you absolutely nothing. Basically, he gives you absolutely nothing. He has not developed a single part of his game whatsoever. The funny part is watching him day in and day out be a master at absolutely nothing. And the fact of how much we know Chris Drury loves this guy. We know how much Chris Drury loves Braden Schneider. He loves him like one of his sons. Because that's the type of player he looks for. The guy who's the idea of physical. The guy who's the idea of tough. And then obviously they get just completely corrupted by the leadership group. I mean, come on. I feel bad for Gavrikov having to play with this fucking guy. He gives him nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing to work with.
Yeah, and as much as I've had my gripes with Gavrikov even at times, like, it's hard to get mad at him when this is who he's stuck playing with. It is just that bad with Braden Schneider that I'm just looking at it right now, and they just are a complete net negative statistically out there on the ice together, and they have no choice but to trot him out there, because what are you going to do? Put Will Borgen on the top pair? Is Scott Morrow going to be on the top pair? You have no other options. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? The GM, maybe.
I say it's Sullivan.
Yes,
Sullivan's
it's
the
Mike
guy that's got to
Sullivan.
go.
It's always the coach.
It's always the coach. Obviously, he's not coaching him correctly. Because, maybe it's just the fact that, you can't coach the uncoachable. But it's basically the stench from top to bottom. That's literally it. And it's a perfect representation from the draft picks to the free agency signings. It all gets infected. That's it. And it comes from bad leadership at the top. And what did that leadership do this week? Last week, they went on WFAN and said, I believe in this. Rome's not built in a day. I believe in Chris Drury. He's a winner. He's had the job for 6 fucking years. How much more time do you need?
Speaking of that, that reminds me that I want to pull up a tweet from Nick Zararis that I saw, and I actually, it's just like insane to see, again, just how bad, it just perfectly summarizes how bad the Drury regime has been with drafting. I mean, forget about for a second the pro scouting, which is obviously abysmal too. Just simply even the again, the development and everything else in terms of the amateur scouting. So Nick Zararis tweeted this earlier today at 1:30 because he tweeted about how the Rangers have made 30 draft picks since Drury became the GM 5 years ago. They've scored a combined 8 goals and played a total of 139 games, which I guess this went up because Gabe Perreault got 2 goals. So we finally reached double digits in 5 years of Drury's GMing.
We did it. That's what we're talking about. Rome wasn't built in a day right there. That's what I'm talking about. 10 fucking goals in 5 years of developing.
And here's a tweet. This is the 11th fewest of any team in the NHL. Of the 10 teams with fewer, recent Cup champions, the Panthers, Golden Knights, Avalanche, Lightning. Recent Cup finalists, the Edmonton Oilers. Actively rebuilding, the Bruins and Penguins. In purgatory, the Winnipeg Jets. Retooling, the Washington Capitals. And then whatever the Senators are. So you're so bad that you're in a class with some of those teams. And the funny part is, the ironic part is, they didn't want to trade their first round pick in that 23-24 season because they were scared of mortgaging the future and they got to preserve the dynasty that never was. They were so scared of that. And all you have to show for it right now is Gabe Perreault, who still is not anything close
Who still is a middle 6 forward.
And like we said the entire time about Gabe Perreault, I like Gabe Perreault as for what he could be as a middle 6 forward. But the problem is he's a passenger, and I never viewed him the way this fan base, a lot of this fan base did, where this fan base thought he had potential to be, a star winger in the league and he could drive play. I always viewed him as this passenger piece that is ideally probably on your second line. And if you can't replenish that by trading him to go get a Jake Gensel, which you're basically replenishing that with a better player in Jake Gensel, even though they didn't have to give him up. But we're just talking in hypotheticals here. We're playing pretend that they had to give up Gabe Perreault in this scenario. I would have made that trade a million times over. Because we've also seen this team cannot develop anyone. And that's the problem too. Do I think a rebuild's coming? No. No, I don't. And even if it does,
they do it, they won't do it properly. So
No.
who gives a shit?
they'll try to rush
genuinely
it.
gives a shit?
They'll try to rush it. And Chris Drury, I don't trust him to evaluate a ham sandwich, nonetheless evaluate prospects in these upcoming draft classes.
I don't trust him to put his socks on in less than a minute. He's a moron. What exactly has he proven? All he has proven is that he's incompetent. His thought process, not just to say it's simple, but it's just asinine. Chris Drury how old is Chris Drury? He's in his 40s, right?
And he acts like
Chris
a dinosaur.
Chris Drury is 49 years old. How are you this much of a dinosaur? How? And this is the funny part. BR Open Ice put out a tweet saying this is what I mean. It's like just missing the concept here. It's always missing the concept here. Saying the Rangers since losing Igor Shesterkin to injury. Like, okay. Like, okay. So instead, like we have said over and over again, oh my goodness, we could be losing 2-1 instead of 6-1. Like, who the fuck? Like, literally, who cares? What is the difference? We look less of the ass. Great. It's like how people talk about. I mean, this is a Raiders reference of people talk about. Aiden O'Connell's been our best quarterback since they let go of Derek Carr. Yeah, he's the best of the ass. Great. They're the best version of ass. This team's not going anywhere, even with him here. And it just shows you exactly that Band-Aid on a bullet wound without Fox and Igor. There's still shit with them. And without them, it's unwatchable. And that's no excuse to say, well, keep these guys around and they should be so valued forever. And they're our superstars. The team doesn't fucking win no matter what. It doesn't matter. We know they make a difference. But you're missing the point here. Like, we're missing the point. Ridiculous. Sherwood would fix everything. Yeah. Absolutely. Culture changer, in my opinion.
Speaking of culture changers, and then you have this. That you have the captain saying, bad first period, we responded pretty well after that. This is the mentality this group has. You're enabling the fact that you shit yourself for 20 minutes, but it's okay, we played.
No BS. No BS. No BS.
What a captain.
What a freaking captain. You nailed it, Drury. You nailed it.
Is there anything you like that Drury has done? I can name one thing, and I said it yesterday. I'll repeat what I said yesterday. The only thing that I like that Chris Drury did throughout his tenure is, even though it didn't work out, I respected the fact that he actually got aggressive during that 22-23 season at the deadline to try and give this team a chance to win and push them over the top with Kane and Tarasenko. That's the only thing I could point to and say I like about Drury's tenure. And even then, it didn't work out. Not to the fault of Kane or Tarasenko. I still think it's stupid, that narrative. And I think it's evident based on what we're seeing from the guys that are still here and the core guys that have been here, that they were the reason they lost to New Jersey, not Kane or Tarasenko. But that was the point, too. I mean, that was just another excuse people made for this core. Oh, well, Kane and Tarasenko were the problems. Right. They were the problems. Even though they were here to be the supporting pieces to your Panarins, to your Zibanejads, to your Trocheks. And what the fuck did those guys do?
Keandre Miller. I mean, the return they got for Keandre Miller, I liked it. I thought it was okay. But were they going to do anything with it? No. So who gives a shit? Like it's so moot. Like anything it's such a moot point when you point out something good that Drury has done, because somehow, some way, it's not going to be utilized or maximized properly.
This also, Kane played better on one hip than Zibanejad and Panarin. The 3-time Cup winner.
He's the devil.
Who won the Conn Smythe. That was the guy that everyone pointed the blame at.
Yeah.
Not the
I'm sure they're pointing
core players.
I'm sure there's some Ranger fans tonight pointing the finger at Quick.
Yeah, I saw some people that are, getting mad at one of those goals that he allowed because he didn't drop on it. Just shut up.
The guy's 39 years old. The funny part is that since Igor signed that extension, there's been huge stretches where, like, literally Quick has been either outplaying him or playing exactly the pace of him. That's the guy you lock down to the richest fucking contract of the position. He's in competitions, in conversations with a 38-year-old Jonathan Quick, 39. That's pathetic, isn't it? Possibly because 3 years ago, he peaked, and he's not that guy. He just isn't. And to be honest, in this argument, I don't even think any competent organization would give $11.5 million over 8 years with a no-trade clause to even Henrik Lundqvist. Because it's dumb.
And you know what the other sad part is about this Igor thing too? You invest $11.5 million into him, and now they're not even being cautious about his health right now. Like, they're trying to rush him back to be here potentially as soon as next game. Shut him down. Shut him and Fox down. This season's wraps. But they're too stupid to acknowledge it. And I get that,
I don't want them to, actually.
I get you're a professional team. You don't want to, wave the white flag on the season.
I actually don't.
Watch what
I don't want
seeing.
them to sit them down. You know why? Because that's going to give this fucking moron in the front office say, oh, well, LTIR them. And maybe we can make some additions at the deadline. Let's bring in fucking,
Yeah, but they did patch the LTIR thing.
That's how he thinks. He's always here to just, let's do the next thing. Let's keep adding. He can't let... The only thing that we will see Chris Drury never do is lay in his own shit. He never will.
No.
Never will. He just needs to keep doubling down because his ego is so fucking high. It's unreal.
I thought I would bring up...
And we even see it with some of the moves he makes without him even talking. That's the crazy thing.
I thought I'd bring up the Trocheck quote as well, because he was asked why the 10-2 loss versus the Bruins hasn't resonated with the players the way that they wanted it to. And he said, it's resonating, I promise. Nothing screams it's resonating like quitting after 20 minutes versus Seattle and then coming out as flat as possible against Ottawa tonight.
Yeah. Hey, Trocheck, did it resonate with you that you completely set the tone for this game by getting a penalty in the first minute?
And not only that, every penalty he takes is stupid. Every single one.
Yeah.
Should have got Gensel 2 years ago. Should have got him. If they were going to do this JT Miller thing, they should have done it years ago when the window was open and they potentially were going to. They should have got Gavrikov during the window. They should have pushed the chips in for Eichel. I mean, the list could go on. And the sad part is, you do these moves earlier, the window could have lasted longer. But you believed so much. Chris Drury believed so much in a core that won nothing. And he still doubled down on it last year despite the shit start.
And I expect him he will continue to. I still believe that there is a strong possibility that he will buy at this deadline.
Forget about that. What if he extends Panarin?
No, sure. Well, those contract talks haven't gone anywhere, so nowhere. Yeah, sure.
Matt, do you have anything you want to jump in with? You haven't said much.
I don't know. I basically, I mean, like I said before, it's like it's tiring saying the same thing over and over again because it's like, how many times could you go over that same stuff? And I mean, like I pretty much said all I had to say when I did that fucking Big Apple hockey stream. I mean, it's just like, again, this franchise just they love incompetence and they love just being mid. And this is not even mid. This is just next tier shit. I mean, from top to bottom, like I said before, there is throughout this whole organization, there's no leadership. Down from ownership to general manager to players who are wearing letters, there just isn't. I mean, when you have James Dolan enabling a guy that, first of all, the only reason why Chris Drury got the job in the first place is because he played here as a player and he was a captain. That's the only reason. If Chris Drury never played here, he would have never gotten this job. He probably would have never gotten a job as a general manager in the first place anyway, because he never done anything like even when he was a GM in AHL with Hartford. What did he do with Hartford? Nothing. They were still the same mediocre Hartford, which the Rangers have had throughout the history because they don't care about the AHL and they don't care about developing talent. So why would we care? And then you have, again, like I said with Drury, just no leadership top to bottom. And I mean even actually I shouldn't even bring up that point because the person who told us this news told us to not even share it, so I'm not going to bring that up. And then you have the leadership of guys like JT Miller saying, it's like, oh yeah, it's okay, we lost 10-2, we lost 8-4, but you know what, we'll go to practice tomorrow, we'll get it all figured out, and then we'll hit the ice again, and then yeah. But it's like, and then again, it's like what you guys were talking about earlier. That back to what that comment was saying about, where did things start to go wrong? I mean, listen, the big one was the 2024 trade deadline when you were leading the NHL. You were, okay, but points wise, you were the best team. Points wise, you were the best team in the NHL. But let's be honest, the way they played hockey, that team was not a President's winning trophy. But okay, you were in the position you were. You take it as you were. And then you followed up with a trade deadline of Alex Wennberg and Jack Roslovic instead of pushing your chips into getting a guy like Jake Gensel. When again, you don't know. It's like we always say, and it's like it's one of the things. Like I agree with you about Drury in 2023, where he was in the right, because when you have the opportunity to go in, that's when you go in. But with 2024, again, you have to go get a guy like Jake Gensel at that point, because you don't know if you're ever going to get back in that same position the year after. And fast forward 12 months, 12 months in March of 2025, they were nowhere near a playoff spot. And then again, I say, okay, fine, even if they were in a playoff spot, there was no guarantee a guy of that caliber was going to be available again. And then the part where it just really spiraled was, and this is the main difference between this franchise and an organization like the Mets, who are actually, trying to change and shift their philosophy. The Mets looked at their core and their roster after years of failure, and they established that their top guys their quote unquote leaders, their core guys, were not good enough, that they couldn't get the job done when called upon. So what do? They move on for them. What did the Rangers do after 2024? After Panarin again had a lackluster playoff, again after Mika Zibanejad didn't do nothing apart from the first round where he had a good series against Washington and he got completely shut down by Alexander Barkov and the Florida Panthers. Jacob Trouba had a chance to move him, but he got totally bitched around because apparently, now a player has more authority over a GM than a GM does a player, which shouldn't make sense in the first place. It's like, again, the fact that this franchise is always late to the party, and then the thing with Chris Kreider. How many times have we had to say this? Moving Chris Kreider was not the problem, because I've seen plenty of Ranger fans over these last couple weeks and over these last couple months say, "Oh, the Rangers are so bad because they traded Chris Kreider and Chris Kreider held everything together." No, trading Chris Kreider was not the problem. The problem was Chris Drury waited 1 year too long, when in reality, they should have traded him after 2024 when the guy was coming off 3 consecutive 30-goal seasons, and you actually could have got something of value for him in return instead of waiting 1 more year, completely destroying the relationship you have with the guy, letting him basically tank his own season because he had injuries. Whether those injuries were real or not, I don't know. I'm not going to question it. And then you end up trading him for a guy in Carey Terrance, who, last time we checked, has a grand total of 5 points in Hartford right now and a second-round pick. I mean, it's like, again, there is incompetence from the top of the organization all the way down to the bottom. So again, it shouldn't be a surprise that we're in this situation as what we are right now. When you have incompetence seeping through the entire organization and through the whole franchise, this was only bound to happen. And like I said when we started this stream, it's not the fact that they're losing that's pissed all of us off. It's the fact that this was predictable and the fact that this was easily preventable. But the guys at the top could not identify that problem.
And it's the fact that they think that they could contend when they can't. That's the part that's scary about it all, is that they're losing games despite the fact that, they went to the year believing last year was an outlier. We could turn things around, which never made sense given the guys in this group are aging and this team isn't as deep as even some of those teams were years ago. It just was never going to happen. And as these guys get older, like I brought up yesterday, they're only going to be more injury prone and they're only going to regress more. So doubling down on it's stupid, but I'm sure they will. But, good regular season production means we got to keep the band together and, have barbecues at Trouba's house to keep everyone all fat and happy, right? I mean, this also, heavily. They almost blew this series too, though. That's the other thing. They almost blew that series versus Carolina, despite being up 3-0. And the other thing I want to say too is if your organization is make or break from Chris Kreider, it's like, again, not to reference the Mets, but we talk about with Iglesias and Martinez. If Chris Kreider is what makes or breaks your team, you're not as good of a team as you think.
You can say a thing about the same. I mean, to be honest, it's more the reference to like Barclay Goodrow, of how this team fucking got so upset that Barclay Goodrow was let go when the guy is literally a fourth liner, an overpaid fourth liner. They gave 6 years to. Another fantastic move by Chris Drury, by the way. I mean, that seemed to be the straw that they're soft. They're soft. They're soft. They can't handle adversity at all when they are paid to lead the team, when they are given a letter. It's not just decoration. You're seen as a leader on the team. You speak for the team. You're a vocal part in that, and the vocal part of it is just constantly complaining. A horrendous mentality. And when you have that horrendous mentality, it's a chain reaction. It goes from top to bottom. Leadership is important. And the Mets are doing a complete opposite of that. Because, I mean, the Mets know that these guys weren't leaders. They know. It wasn't just the constant underperforming, the mentality that we saw from some of those guys in that locker room. And I don't even want to make this a Mets stream, but like some of the stuff, the mindset, it's the same shit. But the Mets realize, hey, this is turning into the New York Rangers. We don't want to be the New York Rangers. Let's move on from this. And to be honest, they probably should have done it maybe 2 years earlier, but
better late than never.
Better late than never.
And
that's never going to happen.
To actually turn the ship around still, because this team doesn't. And it's the same fucking quotes too. It's like, too much talent in the room, and we're better than this, and we'll prove it. And this, by the way, is 1,000,000% accurate. And I don't know why I didn't even bring this up. This all started when Drury took the player side over Gerard Gallant. 1,000,000%, because you enabled these players and you gave them the opportunity to say, you know what? We control what goes on here. We deserve to know the ins and outs, which is, apparently what pissed Mika Zibanejad off, that, the players didn't know the ins and outs on certain things. Yeah, you're not supposed to. That's not how it's supposed to go. But once Chris Drury took their side, you let these players get too complacent in the organization, and they thought their shit doesn't stink and they could control everything that happens.
That's when the country club opened. That's when it opened.
Yeah, and the ironic part is that series and Gallant getting fired. Again, say what you will about Gallant. I had my questions about him and concerns, but that was the moment where I questioned if this group is the one you're going to win with. Because if they are quitting in the middle of a series to get a coach fired, you don't have what it takes in the middle of a playoff series. That you were up 2-0 and you're quitting. What loser bullshit is that? And yeah, I could play it right now. I still have it saved.
Feel like a missed opportunity, but when you look at the talent that you have in your room, does it just intensify?
Well, talent doesn't mean a thing. Talent, it's great to have talent, but when you got to play together and work hard together, and obviously the 4 games that we lost, we had 2 goals. So that's the bottom line. I mean, you're not going to win if you get 2 goals in 4 games that you lost. We scored 5 in the other ones that we won, and like I said, I love to have talent, but you love to have a work ethic and more forecheck and stuff like that, and we just didn't get it done.
The only one who had balls.
How dare he?
Bullshit. That meanie pants Gerard Gallant. Meanwhile,
how dare you? The devil in disguise, right there. How dare you?
And like I said,
to be honest, my mentality, I'll tell you, after you lose a playoff series, the coach should be kissing the leader's feet, actually, rubbing them to make sure that this never happens again. Yep. He should be giving them foot rubs. How dare he say that? And guess what? That lives on until now, into 2026.
And it's like
we even said with the Mets, like, the signs were there. You just ignored them.
Yeah, it's like I said before, and I've said this on the Big Al Hockey stream, but for all of Gallant's faults, and like I said, he still deserved to get fired. Like, don't get that wrong. He cooked with that point. He did, because it's true. Like, listen, you could have every single talented player in the world. If they're not going to mesh, and if they're not going to play the game the right way, if they're not going to forecheck, if they're not going to commit to the philosophy and the system of the team, you're not going to win. And it's like I said, with the whole thing of the players going to Chris Drury and complaining and bitching that, he's not being fair about this, he's not being fair about this. Do you think anyone on Florida, and Evan, you even brought this up too, when you reacted to my my rant on the Big Al Hockey stream, you think anyone on Florida would go to what's his name?
Bill Zito.
Yeah, Bill Zito, and complain about Paul Maurice? No. Bill Zito would tell him to get the fuck out of Florida and tell him to never come back. You think anyone on Tampa would go up to Julian Brisebois and complain about John Cooper? No, because he would do the same thing. He would tell him to get out. If you're not committed to this team, to this organization, to their philosophy, you can leave. Over here, it's different, and
I mean,
it's always been a country club mentality.
I said this way before the eulogy of the 2025 Mets. There's a difference between there is a difference between winning games and playing winning baseball. There's a difference between that, because there's always things that mask everything. There's strengths of the team that can mask, but when it comes down to when you need it most, who is going to step up? Nobody on this team steps up. There's a difference between winning hockey games and playing winning hockey. A winning brand of hockey, which they never did. If you see how that team was masked, it was a house of cards. That year they won the President's Trophy, throughout the entire regular season, everyone can agree, or anybody who saw it, that was a one-line team for the most part. That was a one-line team. Lafreniere, Trocheck, and Panarin playing out of their minds. And when it all came to it, when it all came to when they needed them the most, or when they needed that top six to perform the most, what happened? Because they're not made for it. And that's all they develop is soft, second fiddle, and then whoever they sign, added to the slop. We're not going to pick up the slop, not going to empty it out, just add it. Because you have a general manager, you have an owner, and you also have a front office that has never changed, and they're all complacent as well with their jobs because they're not going to leave. All they do is enable it. That's it. That's all they care about.
And the
That's
sad
it.
part is, the things that we didn't like Gallant for now, we would kill for some of the things that he did then that we got mad at, we'd kill for right now. Because a lot of things that we got mad at him for is like how he didn't coddle Lafreniere and Kakko enough and give them enough of an opportunity. And sure, you could argue it was stupid, but those guys didn't earn their minutes. We yelled about Gallant for not being able to get this team to compete for a full 60. None of the coaches they've had have been able to get them to compete for a full 60. It's the group. It's the man at the top who enabled this, who enabled the fact that they should be coddled, that it's their way. And then the ironic part is, the players cried about Chris Drury trading their best friend after he's been coddling. That's the ironic part about it all. And yeah, Gallant didn't put up with these players being piss babies. He held guys accountable. And you know what? We didn't appreciate it enough at the time.
I mean, everybody goes back to Gallant of him benching, what was it, benching Kakko, right? In that,
It was
that
Lafreniere and, I mean, yeah, you have Kakko in the
scapegoat in the playoffs, yeah.
Yeah, he was scratched against Tampa Bay in Game 6. But then
Yeah.
there was also when he benched Lafreniere against Calgary that one game.
Yeah. Well, they're really proving him wrong right now. They're really proving him wrong. I mean, Loft's here, you know. He got paid, did exactly what the leadership group does, dip. Even Kakko right now in Seattle, he looks great, doesn't he? He looks phenomenal.
Yeah. Maybe it's just
Immediately after, and Mark is right. No, immediately after he got that contract, he disappeared. Immediately after. Like, we can go date to date. The day he got that contract. Ever since to now, he has disappeared. He's played like shit. That's what happens when you have a complacent franchise, complacent leaders, complacent GM, complacent front office, Complacent owner. How do I know it's a complacent owner? Well, he just went on WFAN saying that he believes. He believes in Chris Drury. He believes in this rebuild. What is there to believe in? What is there to believe in?
Laffy's been a huge disappointment, and he has ever since he touched the ice. And that's the other thing is that I was going to bring up is a good player would have forced their way. A true first overall talent would have forced their way into those situations that all these other first overall picks get into. But
But his
Lafreniere, no.
5v5 points, I mean, he has great 5v5 points, you know? Could there be maybe a possibility that, like, behind those 5v5 points, which, again, throughout his entire career, he's been, way less than a half of a point per game throughout his entire career. Could it be possible that he didn't do things well on the other end of the ice or do the little things correctly at all? Nope. It's just about the 5v5 points that he has. That, again, you know, and to be honest, when you look back, and again, this is revisionist history, but when you look back, I kind of understand now why Lafreniere never got power play one time. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it now.
So do
Whoever
I.
benched him, I'm sure plenty. Whoever didn't put him on that power play one, I'm sorry. Get your bag, King. Slay.
Yeah,
Like-
and not only that, but it's also clear as day, since we are doing revisionist history here, it's clear as day that he benefited off Panarin having a career season to get those 5v5 points.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't want to like discredit, some of the moments he had in that playoff run in 23-24, because he did actually have a couple moments where it's like, holy fuck, this is the guy we drafted first overall. But
Oh, that line was buzzing.
what
That
about
line
the
was
other?
buzzing.
Yep, but what about the other 95% of his career?
The thing is that teams make adjustments. The Rangers don't. They don't change. That's the thing. Teams played. Oh, there were actual like other top sixes and other organizations that realized, hey, Loff, Panarin, Trocheck, these guys suck in their own end. These guys suck past their own blue line. Maybe we should scheme to maybe reduce what they are doing on breakaways or what they are doing 5v5 or what are they doing on the forecheck. How can we reduce that? And we all know how these guys respond to adversity. Why would they respond to adversity? They got paid. They're fine. They're complacent. Like, why does it matter? Why would it matter? What is the next best step to take? Drop dead. That's literally it. Like, that's the next step. Just stop watching. Stop caring, because they don't care. They don't. Nothing's going to change. I would trade Panarin, but what the hell would that even do? Until all the gunk is out of here, they won't even stand a chance. Because even if they fire Drury, they're just going to hire another lapdog. So who gives a shit? They might just hire Kevin Adams. Why not? Why not do it?
Thank you for the $5, Don. Chris Drury's drafted one player with 10+ career points, and that's Noah Laba. Third line center. Trocheck was another glue guy who was supposed to be part of the culture change here, and he's been terrible, even sulking just as bad as Captain BS is. Another just fake tough guy. Another guy who thinks his shit doesn't stink. That's all it is. And again, this is what happens when you let the players push you around and you make these decisions based on, who's best friends with who. And yeah, Mid is an understatement. Like it's going to be you're right about in terms of, points wise each season they might be mid, but it's going to take forever before they could actually get, even if they fire Drury and, by some miracle they hire a competent GM, it's going to take forever to get the stench of this away.
No, because it doesn't matter, because even if the rebuild looks good, Dolan is going to push it for playoff revenue. So who gives a shit? Literally, who cares? Genuinely, who cares? And we all know that Dolan will never sell this team because, again, the Knicks and the Rangers play in the same arena. He owns Madison Square Garden, so that's never going to happen.
Right.
They will never go in a good enough direction. They will never have a sense of direction. Because, to be honest, sometimes I feel like Dolan doesn't even know he owns the fucking team. I don't think he even knows that he owns the Rangers. He's so oblivious to that. He hired the right guy in Leon Rose for the Knicks. He hired a good guy, and they are playoff contenders. We wish we could push it over the top even more, but what can you do? They at least have somewhat of direction. They're committed to a core, and they know that they could get out of it. They have a window. The Rangers keep extending a window try to keep extending a window from a core that doesn't win and keeps getting older and older and older. They just don't know when to quit. They don't know when to use any self-reflection skills. They just don't. They never learn anything. They don't learn. And they're so oblivious that they don't even realize that's what they're doing. Because there's no one there in the front office next to Drury saying, hey, maybe we should cut the shit. Because it's the same guys the whole time. Because we all know the guys under Drury are just lapdogs for him. And then Drury's just a lapdog for Dolan. And all Dolan wants is his playoff revenue. What do we keep saying? Round and around and around we go. That's all it is.
Yeah, and it's all it will be. Because they can't acknowledge, for whatever reason, Dolan can acknowledge that this ain't it. And I just don't understand. I don't. But at the end of the day, this is why, the three of us said the shit we did for years now. And it wasn't to sit here and bitch and complain for the sake of it, even though that's what people think it is and thought it was. It's because, holy fuck, the warning signs are there and this franchise is fucked. And they need to be proactive. They weren't, and now you just got to sit and enjoy it.
Okay.
But I don't really have much else to add. I don't know if you do before we wrap it up. Because, again, it's just like Matt has said, we're repeating the same shit over and over again. And we could repeat it time and time again.
That's all they do. That's all they give us the same shit every night. They give us the same shit every night, every week, every year now. That's basically it. I mean, yeah.
Matt, do you have any final thoughts or words at all?
Like I said, same thing over and over again, and that ain't gonna get better soon. They could fire Chris Drury tonight, but like I pointed out, like what we've talked about in our own group chat, whoever comes in next is just set up to fail regardless because of the amount of just old, aged out players on this roster, the amount of money and the amount of bad contracts they have tied up. The fact that when you look at their development system and their prospect system, they have little to no talent in there. It's just where it's it's hard to talk about when there's just like there's no one good thing you could look to as an outlook for the future and point to, oh, at least we have that to rely on. Like literally there's like nothing. And that's the worst part. Is there's no light. It's just we're just gonna have to sit through this and hope that it gets resolved sooner than later. But I just fear for the worst that, like I said, it's gonna be a decade of shit. And we're just gonna have to sit through it, and then when it finally resolves itself, it resolves itself. But we just know that because Dolan's at the helm, the same thing's gonna repeat over and over again. Sure, they might have a couple playoff appearances. They might even make an Eastern Conference final or two. But when it comes down to it, when it's time to make the proper moves, it's not going to happen because this franchise just doesn't know how to make those proper moves.
It's gonna bleed through. It's gonna be the same team with one cup in 80+ years.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's really all I have. But yeah, I mean, thank everybody for coming in here, commenting as always. You guys are great. But yeah, it's bleak right now.
Yeah. And like Anthony's saying, you know, it's funny to switch up. All I could say is for all of you that policed me and told me how to fan, stay on that side. Stay on that side now.
Yeah.
And then I'll leave you with this. Trey Fix-Walensky leads the Wolfpack in scoring. We're in good hands. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I don't know when the next stream will be, but we'll see you guys in the next one.